I'm Chief Warrant Officer 4 Vic Pinion, U.S. Navy, retired, telling some stories of my naval career. This one is a continuation of my first few months aboard the aircraft carrier John F. Kennedy CV67 as the catapult rescue and maintenance officer. I had discovered that the launch valve stroke timers for the catapults were not being used effectively and did not the catapults would not fit within the prescribed boundaries, opening stroke times. And I was addressing that situation. It turns out that the ship had been designed in the first place to be a nuclear-powered carrier, which was later backfitted during the construction of the ship to be an oil burner. And the catapults had also been state-of-the-art, most modern everything, and the rotary low-loss launch valve system, the launch valves themselves were not ready when the rest of the ship's going to be ready. Although it did have the steam accumulator instead of the old steam receivers, and the capacitive selector valve system for setting the opening rate of speed of the launch valves instead of adjusting the steam pressure for each airplane used. Well, they kept the control system for the rotary retract, not rotary, but the rotary launch valves, low loss launch valves, but they backfitted it and put the old linear launch valves in order to get the ship out and operating. The perimeters for the opening strokes of the launch valves were different for the linear launch valves than they were for the rotary low-loss launch valves. And so they had a mixture of the control systems for the launch valve timers themselves between the old and the new, and there was confusion concerning the opening stroke times. And basically, I had discovered, as every crew before me aboard that ship, the ship was 17 years old at the time I reported aboard, but the crew had not been complying with those opening stroke times as required by higher authority. They had been simply gun decking that with all the pre-op inspections, the weekly, monthly, quarterly launch valve stroke timing situations where they were required to time the launch valve stroke down because it did not fit. The times did not fit within the limitations required by the Naval Air Engineering Center. Well, every catapult crew had learned that, and instead of pushing the issue to get it to be officially authorized to use those catapults with that situation, they just gun decked it. And they've been doing that for the life of the ship. Now that's many different crews, many console operators, many catapult captains, cat chiefs, maintenance officers, all the above, and capsule reps and engineers from the Naval Air Engineering Center had been gun decking those launch valve stroke time requirements. Well, I would not accept it. The air boss had directed me, as I told to this point, that we would continue using those catapults because we were deployed and in an alert fighter status off the coast of Cuba. So we would continue using the catapults. He had directed me to write a message to higher authority telling about the situation, requesting advice. Well, I had done so, and he did not want that message to go, and he had sent me back to redraft it several times. Now, up until this point, I had redrafted it a couple of times, and we'd had to launch the Alert 5 fighters because there was Russian bears in the air approaching us, and I had broken my arm when I fell into a hole in the port catwalk and knocked myself unconscious. And I'd gone to sick bay and it had taken some x-rays, and my elbow was broken in half a dozen cracks in both sides of the knob. And my wrist and knuckles and fingers had been turned back. Well, you can see it's swollen now. I'm an old man now. It wasn't swollen so much a couple of weeks after that, but those weren't broken. But it bothers me today. Those old sprains and whatnot come home to you as you get older. Well, so I'm picking up when I had come back from sick bay with my broken elbow and my arms in a cast and strapped around my neck, and chiefs had been laughing about me falling in a hole because everybody falls in a hole. Well, when I walked back to the maintenance office with my arm all cast up like that, they didn't laugh anymore, and I told them I want those red globe lights fixed now, and I want the safety chain put across that ladder landing now. They went to take care of that. Well, now I'm still have to redraft that message reporting my launch 5 stroke timer situation. But I'm right-handed and I couldn't do it left-handed, so I attempted to dictate to Doug Cheney, the maintenance chief, and he attempted to take dictation. Well, Doug and I both learned that both those areas are skills. You have to know how to take dictation, and you have to know how to dictate. Neither one of us had those skills. I ended up with my broken arm moving my fingers to, and I drafted that message and took it up to the air boss, and he sent me on to the captain with it. It was a super abbreviated version of it, and the captain released it. Well, the Naval Air Engineering Center came back with a reply authorizing us, really expanding the limits. They claimed that they were aware of the situation, and they explained and authorized a very broadened set of limits, which we couldn't fit with them all the time either, but we could most of the time for no loads. But we were still required to stick within those limits for dry cycling the launch files once a week, which it just didn't work. In any case, I went that entire deployment every day when a catapult did not fit within those limits. Every day. I called the air boss and I did a little back pressure in that he personally authorized the continued use of whichever catapult I'm reporting on that day with those outer limits times. And we did that. We made the whole deployment like that. Lots more to the story, a lot more. And I'll get to it where this story feeds into additional stories later. That's it for this segment. Y'all carry on.